You are listening to Know You're Crazy. My name is Susan Denee. We all have crazy. What separates us is how we choose to deal with it. I'm going to be delivering engaging and actionable tools to own your crazy, treat your crazy, and turn it into your own superpower. I hope that you walk away from this show feeling the power and strength within you. And never forget to enjoy your journey because you are worth it. Hey folks, welcome to the Know You're Crazy talk show. My name is Susan Denee, and you are listening to Emotional Recovery in the Raw. And it's a good day. It's a good day to be above ground. You know, I just got back from this fantastic event last week, a coaching summit. And I think everybody came home from the coaching summit with a little bug. So if you hear me clearing the throat today, there's a reason for that. But one of the things that I think is really important is that when you show up for somebody or you show up for an audience, you got to bring it. So I am going to bring it today to the best of my ability, and we are going to go from there. So today's show, before I get started, it's going to be all around silent expectations, the silent expectations that we have, and likely the silent expectations that other people have. How do we deal with that? Especially when we're coming into this, or not even coming into, we are in the holiday season, and that can tend to ignite a few expectations with traditions, relationships, that sort of thing. But before I get started, I wanted to announce I am offering a special coaching free Zoom session Fridays at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And this is going to be for the individual who is curious about coaching, who just hasn't partaken in any type of free session. They've never been in a group setting. This is going to be a group session call. It's an opportunity if you've been sitting kind of, wondering, wanting to test the waters, what would coaching be like for me? And if you're somebody maybe who has found success engaging in a group dynamic, and you like the feel of that, then I would encourage you to join that free session. It's this Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can go to my website, shoot me an email at growthspurt@susandenee.com, and I will give you the Zoom registration information so that you can get signed up for that. That is going to be an ongoing coaching session live every Friday at 11 a.m. Hope to see you there. Okay, now I can get started on the show. All right, so silent expectations. So do you ever wonder why people seem disappointed in you, yet you feel you did nothing wrong? Or did you make an agreement with someone, yet both of you failed to communicate the expectations that were aligned with that agreement? Often we are in confusion about our expectations because we don't check in enough about them. It's like this thing, we just don't even talk about it. I was pondering around the show topic today. Nobody really talks about their expectations. We don't come right out and say, well, this is what I expect. Maybe in a parenting situation when we're talking with our children, and maybe that's more of maybe because the parent feels that it's their role to state expectations. But in our relationship as grown adults or even as young adults, it's not a conversation I don't hear, at least I've never partaken in, and I definitely don't hear it around me where folks are just voluntarily talking about their expectations. So often we're in confusion around that. And so we don't check in about them at all. We just kind of all go about our day and do our thing, and yet we're all having expectations about people, expectations about situations. On the show today, I'm going to be talking about the silent expectations and how others can be guilty of it also, and just really how that aligns right now with where we're at in the holiday season, as we most of us, some of us, might be engaging in family and traditions and all that discussion. Last week I did a show simply on not losing your crazy around the holidays, and this show really does kind of, it's an offspring of that show, right? Because if we don't get to the bottom of the expectations and we don't learn how to manage those effectively, we really could have a crummy holiday, and we don't want to do that. And if you extend it out a little bit further, we could just have crummy relationships in general, because I will assure you, if you are frustrated with somebody in your life right now, it's because your expectations are not in alignment with how that person truly is. And it's going to be all about adjusting that expectation. All right. So do you ever wonder, like I said, that, people seem disappointed in you, yet you feel you did nothing wrong? Well, before I dig deep into the disappointment, let's discuss the beliefs and the framework around the environment. I'm going to call these environmental beliefs. This may be shocking to you, but your environment takes a while to catch up to who you are. What do I mean by that? When I would go home and visit my family after, let's just say after I got sober in 2001. And when someone gets sober, they go through, if they're willing to, they go through quite a lot of self-examination, self-introspection, a lot of growth. And so you grow, you're downloaded with all these new perceptions. Some of you may have experienced this in your life, where you've gone through what I like to call a growth spurt. If you had a baby, you for sure has gone through this, because all of a sudden the world looks completely different than before you gave birth. And all of a sudden you find you're a parent and everything shifts. It's like a download immediately. Well, when you go through a personal transformation and you are the one experiencing that, and then you go home to the family and they don't recognize your greatness. They haven't even acknowledged it. In fact, they're still treating you as if you're, still, I don't know, leaving your dirty laundry on the bathroom floor, not hanging up your towels. They're just kind of like, wow, like they can't see who I am. They don't understand. Here I've had this whole new outlook on life. In fact, now I look at them like they're idiots. There's a whole new level of perception going on. Well, what's happening is the environment that you surround yourself with, or have in the past surrounded yourself with, sometimes takes longer, not even sometimes, it will take longer to catch up to your newfound growth. Why am I talking about this? Because when we have beliefs and they've been shifted, if we've gone through some type of growth, or we just grew up, right? Like a lot of us, we become adults and we finally grow up. It's like when you move out of mom and dad's house and you're finally out on your own, and now you understand why they shut the lights off all the time. Or now you understand why they're looking at the price tags at the grocery store. Like it all kind of starts to make sense. But until those belief shifts and until you really experience, the environment is still functioning like it's always functioned. And so how does that all relate to expectations? Well, if you have an expectation as you go into this holiday season that when you show up, maybe for the first time with a partner, or maybe you're going home for the holidays and usually you don't, you might have to take a look at, what are my beliefs about me and how have they been lately? Because if I'm placing my expectation that they're supposed to just receive me in all of my newfoundness or all of my greatness, I'm just being a little funny here, I might be disappointed. And there's the disappointment. And so expectations are ultimately the result of the beliefs we have regarding how things should be done and how people should behave and show up. Think about it. In your life, what are some things that irritate you? What are some things you got your crazy wrapped around? Timeliness might be one. I have a group of friends and some of them are extremely on time. And even as I say this, I'm probably making people cringe. Like extremely on time. My mom and dad used to show up a half hour before they had to be there, right? Extremely timely. Okay. I'm the type of person, I like to show up right at the time. If we say 5 o'clock, it's 5 o'clock. It's not 4:55 and it's not 5:05. It's 5 o'clock. So if that's the time we're supposed to go, great. And I don't get frustrated when people show up at 5:05. Like I'm all good with that. But that's my belief system. Other people who like a timely, 5 minutes before, even a half hour before, their expectation would be that I should behave in that same manner. So in that scenario, I would probably frustrate some folks just simply on expectations around timeliness. That's one example. Another example, what's one that's recently been in our world for all of us It's been professional. It's been professional lives. How have we uprooted our professional lives over the last couple of years? We've had a complete shift in beliefs. All of a sudden, people are aware, oh my goodness, I don't need to spend an hour in my car to get to the office no more. And if the office is saying, oh, yes, you do, now the employee's coming back and saying, no, I don't. In fact, I'd like to compromise. I would kind of like to do some of this from home. And all of a sudden, the beliefs have shifted and expectations start to be involved. Expectations start to be involved. And so expectations, how high are they? And is that working for me? And what is the framework in which I'm trying to practice those expectations? I had an expectation in my mid 40s and late 40s that my health was always going to hold out. Guess what? No. Guess what? Hormones decline. My expectations had to be reset. Several shows ago, I did one called Reset Expectations, which is exactly in alignment with what I'm talking about today. Because ultimately, my level of serenity and my level of peace is going to be proportionate to the level of my expectations. And you can thank the recovery world for what that piece of little tidbit information there. I always admit when I pull something from the rooms of recovery, and that's one of them. And I'm going to go more about that later on in the show. So once you start to understand your environmental framework, and you understand that the environment is going to be stronger than your willpower, you start to appreciate where you're coming from and why some things can be frustrating for you and why sometimes they can be challenging for you. So you'll have your beliefs around your home environment, your family environment. Take a look at why you think things should be done a certain way, why you think certain behavior should be done by others and yourself. If it's a professional, if it's a career situation, take a look at what your beliefs are around the workplace. Have they shifted? For many of us, they have shifted in the last few years, but have your beliefs shifted? And if those beliefs have shifted, is that a fair expectation to place on your employer? Because remember, the title of this show is Silent Expectations. So you know where I'm going with this, right? Okay, I'm going to hit one more up for the environmental. Imagine we're coming into the holidays, a beautiful time for family to get together. And yet it's a time for the family to get together. I think I was just listening to someone the other day saying that, they had out of town guests coming in and they were my wife's out of town guests, not my out of town guests. And everybody was chuckling about that. But there are beliefs and expectations when people and family are visiting. I remember, well, there's a couple of things you can do differently. I'm going to get into that later in the show, but I specifically recall when I would go home to my family in Nebraska and visit over the holidays, I would set myself up for success as much as possible because I was walking into one of those environmental frameworks that was like the Seinfeld, the Seinfeld sitcom at times, right? And I appreciated all of it. I also understood that their expectations of me and my expectations of them may not be aligned and that was okay. But to be able to set myself up for peace and happy and joy and all that around the holidays, I had to take a look at that before I walked in the door or before I even traveled. The original plan with how I got onto this topic today about silent expectations is when I came home from this recent coaching summit event and I was sick, I announced that to my girls. I have a couple teenagers still in the home and they scattered like cockroaches. They're like, I'm out of here. They're still in the world of we should all quarantine and that's kind of where they're, we're all shifting. I'm okay with that. My family was deeply impacted by the COVID because we lost my father, but it was like they scattered like cockroaches. And so anyway, when my one daughter went to a friend's house and I, check in with the friend, check in with the mom, all is well. But today when she sent me a message, she was asking me something about, she didn't want to come home for a few more days. And what my message to her was simply this: be sure you check in with the parent of that home because there might be some silent expectations that you're not aware of. Are there any events in your life right now where there may be some silent expectations from someone in your life that you're not aware of? Here, my daughter is really, we have fantastic friends of the family who are allowing her to stay there and they're highly supportive. but are there silent expectations that nobody's trying to be, malicious about, but they are just natural for us to show up and think that some people should just know these things about us. If you are frustrated today, if you have relationships in your life that you're wondering, why can't they just get it? Have you taken a look at what your silent expectations are about that particular individual or about that situation? This could be with your partners. This could be with friends. This could be with your grown children, wondering why they do things the way they do. Do you have a silent expectation of what you think that should look like? And if you do, have you communicated that to them? Is that relationship on a even playing field? Right? I always like to say our crazy it can cause a little bit of chaotic thinking and processing. And if we're holding other people to our expectations and they don't know it, well, guess what? They are probably in for a big surprise once that all comes out. Okay. All right. So did you ever make an agreement with someone and then you both failed to discuss the expectations that are aligned with that agreement? I'll give you an example. My now husband, we've been together for 14 years. We agreed to move in together at one point, right? I think we waited like 5 years. So we agreed to move in together. We agreed to combine our families into one home. It was practically the Brady Bunch. But we failed to discuss the expectation and behaviors of everyone, us and the kids. So sometimes it seems like this is a really great idea, and it likely is a great idea. But underneath that idea, has there been expectations communicated, about the agreement? So no matter what, especially if you're going through something really intense in your life, like a dramatic family situation, is the communication between you and your family, or you and those that are involved in that, clear of any nonsense? Like, have you come to the table and said, this is kind of what my expectation is regarding this, regarding the situation that we both find ourselves in. This is what my expectations are. I don't mean to say that's the way it has to be done, but I'm finding that that's kind of where my beliefs are aligned. Remember, we all come from different backgrounds. We all come from different perspectives. I don't care how long you've been in a relationship with somebody, myself included. At the end of the day, my husband and I were raised in separate homes. We were coming from different backgrounds. There's no way that I can know what goes through his head, because he goes out into the work and does his job every day and experiences new relationships and different people and all kinds of experiences that I have no clue about. Who am I to say that he's always supposed to match on my same level? We are living different lives, yet we come home together. And so all those influences and all those opportunities in your life from everybody around you absolutely comes home with you on some level. And so in that communication, there's expectations, but are they silent expectations? I would encourage you, if you're struggling at all in any of your relationships right now, or if you've even got a little kind of struggle going on, or if you're in something in a significant nature going on in the home, to just make sure that there's communication clear and ask yourself, what are my expectations about this situation? What am I assuming is just supposed to happen all the time? And have I been forthright with that with my partner, or with my children, or with my friends, or maybe with your coworkers? If things at work have switched up for you and you're experiencing it at a different level and you have a lot of opinions, maybe you find yourself complaining a lot, maybe you're not happy anymore. Well, there's probably some expectations about how you think things should be happening right now, and they're not going according to plan. All right. So where am I at here? When it comes to an agreement and it comes to the expectation, also always take a look at how things are being done. And so if I assume I think how something's supposed to be done, I did a show on silent agreements also, then I have to make sure that this is being talked to about you. And so you're going to always find these indicators of how your crazy operates, because you're going to be frustrated, you're going to be overwhelmed, and you're not going to want to communicate. And sometimes when we do that, we get irritable, or we shut down, or we find ourselves complaining a lot to other people. Okay. All right, next topic. What is the difference between hoping and expecting? And so here's the difference. So see if this makes sense to you. I hope you would know better than to borrow my car without my permission, versus I expect you know better. I hope you would know better. Hope, when you're working with individuals or you're in relationships with other people, hope is an openness for someone to not do it like you think they should. Therefore, you are not as upset or disappointed when they shift in another direction. It's kind of like, I really hope they would know better. And then you realize, oh, they didn't know better. But you're not as disappointed in that, nor are you as frustrated, because you're understanding that not everybody's going to operate on the same wavelength as you are. So that's the difference between hope, because you're leaving room for grace for other people. If it's a hardline expectation and there's no room, there's no wiggle room in that expectation, that's when you end up feeling disappointed and upset towards other people, because you're just demanding that they show up a certain way, and you're willing to argue for that demand. And the argument in and of itself is a real red flag. I was taken off guard. It was a couple weeks ago. I was in a recovery meeting. And for those of you who may not know, but in the rooms of recovery, we have this thing about God, and it's a higher power thing. And so we keep religion out of the rooms, because there could be a lot of discussion around religion, I'm sure you can imagine, based on folks' upbringings, different beliefs, different backgrounds. Like I said, we're all coming from different perspectives. And so in sobriety, this has worked really well, because so many people come in with, all kinds of different things. It doesn't even matter. So we keep it out of the rooms, and that's why you'll hear, higher power a lot. We believe in a higher power, and then each person is given the choice to live their own relationship with that. Some choose religion, some choose, what they call spirituality. I mean, it's all over the place. But in the rooms, we keep that, higher power. And I was taken off guard the other day, because, see, I expected people knew that. Especially people with double-digit sobriety. I thought they knew that if you try to push your beliefs on somebody, that they may not go so well. And what I found out was not everybody is still in line with that. And that took me off guard. And quite frankly, that kind of upset me a little bit. And so much so that the individual who was confronting me and really trying to persuade me to do things in a religious context, which I didn't really, I could appreciate where that person was coming from, but it's not my jam. It took me by such surprise. Like, I don't know why I didn't expect that. My expectations were that was just an understood thing. And then I can also give all this leeway in here. I mean, I've been in recovery for a while, sometimes quicker, sometimes slower. I mean, there's all kinds of different things going on. But even when you think you have a grounded expectation, or you have a grounded, solid value, like you get it, and somebody else doesn't, it can take you by surprise. And it's almost like my old employer I used to work for, there was like this dynamic with the management team. And I used to comment to someone close to me, as I would say, I just can't believe they surprised me again. Like, I really thought, but this one surprised me again, because I kept having an expectation that, how could they do anything more outlandish than they already did? Like, that's crazy to me, right? To me. And so there's these expectations. And so how I knew that I had an expectation that gone crazy, how I knew that recently with the one situation in the recovery room, is I would find myself, and this is an example of how your crazy might operate. It's definitely how all of a sudden I'd be doing the dishes, and hell, I'd be arguing with the person in my head. I'd be like winning the conversation, and that'd be telling, like, oh my goodness, I am reinventing that conversation. That's some crazy, right? That's some crazy. And then I spot check it. Then I spot check, like, oh, we've got some things that are out of alignment there. We've got something that you're not quite at peace with. And I don't know about you, but anytime I have a problem with another person or another situation, I know inherently that that problem lies within me, because I am the only one that's going to be able to bring peace about that situation. So sometimes you can still get caught off guard with your expectation and what you think people are going to show up and be. And then truly, when they do show up and be somebody else, it might not sit with you too well. It may not sit with you too well. All right, so we're about to go to break. And before I go to break, I am going to just put one more shout out to the free coaching Zoom session this Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If that is something that you're interested in, I'm super excited about it. I'm excited to bring coaching to a group format. It's free, it's complimentary. That way, nothing out of your pocket for this one. But if you're interested in that, shoot an email to me at growthspurt@susandenee.com. And I will shoot you over the Zoom registration info link, and you can get registered for that. You can also check out any of my anything about me on social media, either at Instagram at Susan Denee, Facebook Susan Denee, or my YouTube channel has the best ones, I think. If you're looking for content or anything to help you along the way. What else? When we come back, or when I come back, I'm going to be talking about, okay, so we're looking at expectations. We're going to look at how they've gone awry. We've done a little bit of that already, how they show up, when they need to get back aligned. What can you do about it, especially with the holidays and everything coming up? What can you do to really take a look at the expectations? And some of them, you may not even know that you're carrying along in these situations. And as I always like to say, how are your expectations affecting your energy based on how you show up in the relationships in your life today? What's it like for family when you show up to the holiday gathering? What's that like for them? Is everybody at ease with you? Do they want to have conversations with you? Or are they scared of what you think? Or are you a little bit, high maintenance? I don't know. But that is something that we're going to talk about, because, it's always nice to take a look. Maybe you're the bah humbug of the party, maybe. I'll end with this before I go to break. My husband came home the other day. What the heck was he talking about? I don't know. And he wasn't in a bad mood, but we were joking back and forth. And I go, what do we not have to be happy about? We got a roof over our head. We got food in our belly. We've got a Christmas tree up. We got a few presents underneath there. What do we have not to be happy about? Right? But if your expectations are out of alignment, you'll find something not to be happy about. All right. So I will be back here shortly, and we will go over what to do if your expectations get out of whack. All right. Be back. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Know You're Crazy talk show. My name is Susan Denee, and I am talking about emotional recovery in the raw. I want to give a shout out to Ann Jeanette, who made a comment, and also to Lisa. Hi, ladies, my favorite ladies. Good to be here. Good. I'm glad you're here. Let's see, what was that? Okay, expectations. That's the emotional recovery that I'm talking about today, is expectations, especially during the holidays. What are the holidays like for you with family? Last week, I did a show simply around the emotional tips that tipping over, the emotional tip overs that we can go through, especially around the holiday season, the fact that it is such a sentimental time for many people. Last week, I touched on, we're at a time right now, 2 years out after the pandemic, but only 2 years, only 2 years. And for, my family in particular was hit hard with COVID. We lost my father. In fact, December 18th, he'll be gone for 2 years. Today is my mom's birthday, actually. Happy birthday, Mama. And it can be a sentimental time. It can be a time where a lot of people are grieving. There's nostalgia in the air. And so when we are hurting, or we have a holiday that's around the corner that we're hoping really lifts us up. I mean, some people don't celebrate throughout the whole year, right? This is it. It's the big whammy. It's Thanksgiving and the family and the big Christmas celebration. And if you celebrate New Year's Eve, this is it. Some folks don't have a big celebration all year, and they really look forward to the holidays. For other folks, it brings up childhood memories. Imagine the pressure on the family if you're a childhood memory one. You want to relive everything. You know, God forbid something happens negative at the holiday season when you've got your hopes up, everything's going to be fantastic. And then, oh my God, all goes to hell. I mean, hopefully not, but that's the kind of pressure and that's the kind of expectations that can be around the holidays. You know, maybe and some people don't like to talk about this stuff, right? Like sometimes we just keep brushing it along, but that's not what I do. I tend to talk about everything. Expectations around the holidays. That's why they are so important to look at. So what can you do? Okay, let's say, how have you been lately? Okay, how you been around the holidays? Are you feeling good lately? Are you financially broke? Are you feeling financial fears? You know, maybe you're grieving, maybe you've lost somebody around this time of year. This is the first holiday without them. Last year or last week, I told a story about, you know, I had gone through a divorce and he moved out in 2008, like 2 weeks before Christmas. It was just devastating. Maybe this is your first Christmas alone with the kids, or maybe the kids, this is the first time the kids are with the other parent during the holiday. So there's all kinds of different things. And so how do we navigate that? How do we experience a blissful time and give ourselves permission to have the holiday that we want or not have a holiday, right? Like it literally is, it's a day on the calendar. And you can take that perspective if that's going to help align you. You know, one of the things that that I borrowed from recovery, because I'm going to say it again, I said at the beginning of the show, is, and it's so powerful, but it's about expectations. And our expectations are directly proportionate to our serenity level. If my expectation is too high, my serenity level comes down. And so what I need to do is I need to lower my expectations and my serenity level will come up. But then what happens? My rights kick in. Don't I have a right to feel this way? Don't I have a right to a big Christmas dinner? Don't I have a right to expect that we're gift exchanging on Christmas Day? Don't I have a right to expect Christmas lights put up by my spouse? My rights kick in. And guess what? Serenity level goes back down. And so what happens is I have to throw out my rights too. And I have to get humble. So if I can dismiss my expectations and I can dismiss my rights, my serenity level comes up. And at the end of the day, when I really take a look at that, isn't your emotional peace of mind, your emotional satisfaction worth your serenity? I'm willing to adjust expectations so that I can maintain my serenity. That's what I'm willing to do. What are you willing to do? What are you willing to do? Do you still need to fight? Do you still need to like stay in there with those opinions and that righteousness just so that you can get along, right, with what you think should be? Or are you willing to let go of some opinions? Are you willing to let go of some expectations that are no longer serving you? Because at the end of the day, our beliefs are the ones that are going to block us from truly living a blissful life. It's the beliefs. It's the beliefs in what we think we should have and when we should have it. And I will bring a little bit of higher power into this right now. I'm just saying, everything's going to keep moving forward because there's a greater force at work here, and it's beyond you and me. It's beyond you and me. And I don't care if you call that God. I don't care if you call that nature. I don't care. But there is something bigger going on. When I transition and when I go, you know, when I pass and go on to the other side, you all are still going to keep moving, right? Like that's just the way that works. And so how important is it really? How important are these expectations around the holiday really? I mean, really, how important is it? Because if it's still in your peace, if it's still in your serenity, if it's taken away from you and the joyous relationships that you can have with people and family, and I'm talking even people at the grocery store, you know, when we're bah humbug and we're all, you know, grouchy and crap around the holidays because traffic's too much and all the people are shopping. I think it's funny when people get grouchy around that stuff, right? But that's the kind of energy we bring. And then we're miserable. But I mean, It's all about expectations. We're all thinking everybody should behave a certain way and people should do it a certain way. And we lose track of what our role in that is. All right. So what do you want to do? What do you want to do about the holidays? How do you manage if you're sitting here thinking, okay, that's all fine and dandy, but I really do think that when I go over to this person's house, it's highly dysfunctional. They drink too much, they swear too much, or all they do is watch the football game. Do people play football right now? I think so. Whatever. I remember my dad did. I don't know. All they do is watch TV. Like, it's horrible, right? Like, I know that's what it's going to be like. Like, I know my sister's going to be there. My brother's going to be there. You know, they're always drinking. I don't know. Just making stuff up right now, but might be true, right? So what do you do? What do you do? All right. Number one, think ahead. Just think ahead. Just think ahead, which actually thinking ahead might mean you have to think behind. What do I mean by that? Patterns repeat themselves. Patterns repeat themselves. Your patterns also repeat themselves. If you're going to engage in some holiday festivities and you're wondering if you're going to get along with others, or you're even questioning the amount of joy that you could experience, like you've already worried about it, you've already complained to your BFF about it, like you've already thought, think about it, think ahead, and really take responsibility for thinking ahead and ask yourself, what is coming up for me? I would even do some writing on this because, so often we just go. We don't stop and pause and ask ourselves, how do I truly feel about this situation? And if the answer is anything less than joyful, then I ask myself, what could be behind that? What's coming up for me? And then ask yourself, well, here's part 3 of this piece of it. What are my expectations of others in that scenario? What is it that I'm expecting of them when I show up? What is it I'm expecting of them? Okay. Get your answer. Ask yourself, is this a silent expectation with this person or this situation? Is this a silent expectation? And if it is a silent expectation, should I communicate it? Would that be the best route? Or should I just release it? Because we'd be holding people up to our expectations and they don't even know it. No need in telling them if you can just dismiss the expectation. It's kind of like when I was talking about that story of the person addressing, in a recovery room, bringing up, God and their beliefs and pushing them a little bit on me. I had a choice. Once I caught that crazy conversation, I had a choice. I could reinvent that conversation, like literally person to person, or I could just ask myself, like kind of shake myself like, of course, because sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly for people. So I just dismiss the expectation of that individual and just let it go. And that's a solution for me. Okay. So think ahead. And in order to think ahead to what's coming, it's not to do doom and gloom or to assume it's going to go bad, but just think ahead. How do I feel when I think of that situation? And you might have to think back in other times how you felt just to kind of connect. And then what's behind it and what expectations am I bringing to the party? What's my part? What am I expecting? Is that a healthy expectation or is that a negative expectation? Is it silent? Would it benefit both of us or the situation for me to communicate it, or is it more beneficial for me just to dismiss it? And by dismissing the expectation, I'm not talking about avoidance. I've talked about avoidance and boundaries. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying for you, is it a silly expectation? Like one that can just go to the wayside and then your serenity level shoots up. If that's the case, then just get rid of it, because you know what? You get to do that. Because remember, at the end of the day, you're 100, 200, 300% responsible for your experience. You are 100%. That is your responsibility. No matter what's been done, no matter what's been said, at the end of the day, if you want to experience peace in your life, you must take responsibility for that journey. You always have to take responsibility. Others can show up and complement your life, but they do not necessitate your happiness. They can complement your life, but they are not responsible for your happiness. That's just the way that is. And so you get to decide, is this an expectation that I just release? Or is this one I continue to hold others to and therefore, move forward with it? All right. Let's say that let's say it feels bad. Okay. You're going back in, you're going back in with the family for the holidays, or you're going back into the office for the day, and it just feels bad. And you can't help it. You got these beliefs and they're kind of righteous. So you're unable to get rid of the rights. And you're like, oh, this isn't working for me. Just get a plan. Just get a plan. You know how your crazy operates. You've been doing it for a while. This didn't just happen yesterday, probably. You probably got this pattern of crazy. And if it's too deep rooted, because you haven't really talked to anybody about it, or you haven't done coaching, or you haven't done therapy, and you're just aware that's a knot in your stomach, like, just get a plan. If it feels bad and the situation is contentious, get a plan B. We leave early. Leave the party early. And if you're one of those people like, oh, I couldn't do that. Why not? Why not? It's not a big deal. Really, you're not that important. People are going to keep doing what they're doing. They're just going to be like, whatever. So just get a plan B. Exit if you have to exit. Don't worry about it, right? Don't worry about it. Make your plan B ahead of time, though, because if you think ahead, you realize how it feels. It's not great, but you still feel that you need to show up for whatever reason that is. Get a plan B. Leave early. Get a plan B and don't go. I don't know. But have your plan ahead of time, because once again, you get to do that because you're an adult. You get to make your own decisions. All right. What's next? Okay. Here's a really great one. Reset your expectation. Okay. This was that other show I did. Just reset the expectation. Is this a situation where you hope somebody doesn't behave in that way? And if they do behave in a certain way, is that going to be okay with you? Because you can make up your mind that it's okay. It's okay for people to be human. My big thing that I'm on right now, don't take it personal. Nobody is showing up in your life. I wouldn't think anybody is. I mean, there might be some weird people, but don't take it personal, because anything anybody's got going on is 99.9% about them and not about you. And that may be kind of heartbreaking, but that's kind of the thing. It's not personal. And so is your expectation, once you get to the bottom of what that expectation is, and you really look at it and you figure out, is this toward a person? Is it toward the situation? Am I telling myself a story over and over and over about what this experience is going to be like? Family's a really good trigger for this one. Family's a really good trigger for this one. Like, oh God, we're going to go. And, and you got this whole story you're already telling yourself. You've already decided that it's, overwhelming, or you're the one, cooking way too much food, or, whatever. But you've got a story that you're telling yourself. My husband and I, we were thinking, we've got the Brady Bunch blended family thing, and kids are here at this parent's and other kids are here. And now they're getting partners and dating, and got some still at home. And I mean, it's just like, who's doing what? What are we doing? I gave up the pleaser thing around the holidays, maybe even was a little bit too much, but a while back. The thing I like to remind my husband and I both of is that we get to do whatever we want to do. And so we can have a Christmas Day celebration on the 23rd if we want, or on the 24th if we want. Like, you get to arrange whatever your situation is to suit you. And hopefully you're checking in if it deals with a partner or a spouse or your children, to make sure it works for everybody. But remember, don't be afraid to switch it up, or check in with everyone. Check in with everyone. Is this arrangement still working for you guys? Like, is this still working? Because remember, people grow up. They grow up, they have new lives, they do things differently. Like, is this arrangement still working for you? Is it comfortable for you to have to come here and do this and then go here and do that? Or is that just my expectation as a parent that you should still be acting like that at, 25 years old? I don't know. Maybe that's a conversation to have. All right. So what are the three things? So think ahead, ask yourself how it makes you feel, determine, Is there something that I need to do about that expectation? Is it a silent expectation that I should be communicating or asking about, or is it just an expectation that I need to dismiss and get over? Like, is it really that big of a deal? Remember that your expectation and your serenity are proportionate. If the expectation gets too high, serenity level goes down. Lower the expectation, raise the serenity. But then what happens? Our rights kick in. We get all anxious. We have a right to feel this way. We have a right to expect that, all that. Pretty soon when you feel that righteousness there, you see how that felt? That didn't feel joyful, did it? It never feels joyful. When we get all indignant about what we should do, that's not a loving, joyful feeling. That's a demand feeling. Okay, rights kick in. They got to get dismissed. If the expectations and the rights get dismissed, guess what? The serenity level comes up. And you get to ask yourself, is my emotional wellness, my peace of mind, worth getting rid of some of my rights and my expectations? Mine is. I borrow that from the world of sobriety. In the world of sobriety, it comes from our book, and it's a story that somebody wrote. And how that person put it is how it's written in the book is it says, is my emotional sobriety worth it? Nothing comes before my emotional wellness. Nothing comes before my emotional sobriety. Nothing. Not a particular gift wrapped, not a particular arrangement. Nothing comes before my emotional sobriety. Sometimes nothing comes before my relationship with my higher power. You see where I'm going with this? So once you take that power back and you realize how frivolous some of these things are that we get all uptight about, and how out of whack our expectations are, you're able to shock yourself back into some reality. And like I said to my husband, what do we got to be upset about? We got a roof over our head. We got food in our belly. We got family that loves us. All is well. All is well. All right, folks. That's going to be a wrap for today. Before I completely close out, once again, another shout out for the Zoom group coaching session offered this Friday at 11 a.m. I will be doing this live session every single Friday. I'll be posting videos throughout the week. If you are interested, email me. You can go through my website. My email's on my website at susandenee.com. You can also, the email's growthspurt@susandenee. I'll be more than happy to shoot over the Zoom registration information for you. I'm super excited about that on Friday. And I'll tell you what, doesn't matter how many people show up, I'm going to bring it. I'm going to be awesome. We're going to do some coaching. So if you want to participate in that, shoot me an email. Would love to see you. Other than that, I guess I will also see you next Tuesday for this show. Have a awesome evening. Have a blessed evening. Check your expectations. All is well. And have a good one. Night, guys. You have been listening to Know You're Crazy.
Crazy.
And my name is Susan Denee. We are identifying, understanding, and treating your crazy one episode at a time. Tune in to transformationtalkradio.com. To connect with me or Growth Spurt Your Life, please visit susandenee.com. That's Susan Denee, DENEE.com.